What's up, family? It's your dude, Johneri'O Scott, and today we are at AIDS Atlanta's Men Engagement Network and Positive Impact's World AIDS Day event. Together we rise, honoring the past, the present, and the future of HIV history.
So my name is Nikki. I'm the Interventions Program Manager at Positive Impact Health Center. I'm actually one of the co-hosts of this event. So it's just so exciting to be able to partner with AIDS Atlanta and Men Engagement Network to bring this momentum occasion to life.
Yeah, so in celebrating today's event, I have a question for you.
Of course.
In your opinion, what is the most effective way to combat the stigma surrounding HIV/AIDS in our communities?
Honestly, I think awareness. Having events like this to continue to bring awareness, because with those 19,000 people in Atlanta that are out of care, bringing awareness to them of where to go to receive their services, the community that is supportive of them, because all too many people are out there by themselves in different pockets within the city and different counties, and seeing events like this come together and come to life, it's really bringing awareness and showing people where they can go to continue living, to have a life worth loving.
What do you want individuals to get from this event today?
Honestly, I want people to be able to remember those that we lost. This is to think about the past, think about where we are in the present, and where we're going in the future. I want people to be able to see that two of the largest agencies within Atlanta, period, doing this work are able to come together, and we can stop working in those silos. All too often we're just doing our own work, and not one of the agencies can help get those 90,000 people in care. It's going to take us as a collective to do that. So seeing that if we can do it, everyone can come together to share a leg in this work.
All right, so my name is Johneri'O, and I am the Director of HIV Prevention Services at AIDS Atlanta. So the Men Engagement Network is one of the programs that's under my department, and I am very proud of the work that they're doing in the community, and exactly with making sure that they commemorate World AIDS Day, which is something they do great every year, and this year has been no exception. They're blowing it out of the box. It's amazing. I mean, they find the best places. They have the best DJs, the food, everything's great. So this is going to be a wonderful event tonight. I can already tell.
Yeah. Okay, so in the work that you have been doing in the community, what do you think are the biggest barriers to accessing HIV testing and treatment in our community?
That's a really good question. I think that some of the barriers are more systemic. You know, there are like social determinants of health. There's inequity among people. There's a lot of things that we have to kind of like combat to remove in order for things to just be an equal playing field. So I know that HIV testing is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. You can always, find a place to go test. Just put in your zip code. It tells you where to go. Just to give a plug, you can definitely go to AIDS Atlanta, AHF Wellness Center, 1438 West Peachtree, Atlanta, Georgia. They're ready for you. But seriously, I think if we remove some of the inequities and some of the systemic barriers, I think more people will access HIV care. Then, of course, there's stigma around it. It's one of those situations where, it's not really received well, like a cancer diagnosis, where people kind of like make sure when you say HIV diagnosis, or if you say you want to get some HIV prevention care, then it becomes a bit of a stigma, a bit of a judgment. So once we remove some of that, I think we'll be fine. We'll get more people to come out.
And how you doing, Larry?
I'm doing very well.
Listen, you look sharp.
Well, thanks. So do you.
Okay.
Pearls.
Thank you. Listen, we're going to put some pearls on Larry. Okay?
Please.
We're going to put some pearls on Larry. So, Larry, today is World AIDS Day, and I have a question for you. In your opinion, what is the most effective way to combat the stigma surrounding HIV/AIDS in our communities?
I think there's many ways, but education is absolutely critical. People understand what's going on with this disease, what's going on in the community. No reason to be afraid of anyone with HIV. No reason to be afraid you may have HIV. There's many venues to get tested, to get treatment, to get care. The critical part is getting tested and into care or under PrEP, which is what all the agencies want to see happen.
Okay, well, listen, Larry has shared all the information with you that you need to go. And just go ahead. I would say PrEP is the way to go.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So go ahead. PrEP is the way to go. Thank you so much, Larry.
Thank you.
If you could change one thing about how society views HIV/AIDS, what would it be and why?
Oh, if I could change one thing, it's just the overall view. HIV affects everybody. It doesn't matter how you identify, if you're black, purple, green, yellow. It focuses, or happens to anybody. So if I could change that view, I would. And us not be so focused on, especially being in the South, like the taboo side of things, because the stigma is the biggest part. And it's just like, I wish I could just change the viewpoint. Like, instead of going to certain specific areas, we could go to all areas. We go to all the brunches. We go to all the events. And then really honing in on young adults or the teens going into schools. Viewing how, like, changing how sex ed is viewed in schools, having college ambassadors that can that can motivate and encourage people to, like, get tests and screen regularly. Even with regular PCPs, primary care providers, OBGYNs, like, have these conversations. Don't think of these conversations as somebody being promiscuous. Like, let's just break the barrier, start the conversations, and keep it real. Keep it 100.
That's the main way I think how we can break this stigma. All right, y'all. I'll time my own girl soft and said it right there. Listen, main thing, education and breaking the stigma. Thank you so much, Papa.
Thank you.
The man I have here, he knows all about communities and celebrating and advocacy when it comes to HIV/AIDS. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah.
So I'm Abraham. I'm the community liaison with Gilead Sciences. I've been working in the field of HIV for about 8+ years. So in my role, I work with organizations like AIDS Atlanta, Positive Impact. I'm in a community-based organization in Atlanta that is servicing communities for people living with or impacted by HIV.
All right, so I have a question for you. How can we encourage open conversations about HIV/AIDS in settings where stigma is prevalent?
So for me, Johneri'O, I think that is by having a conversation. I instantly think of the barbershop, right? So I go to a barbershop and oftentimes I hear a lot of misinformation about sex and HIV from barbers, right? So I think one of the things I purposely do, I listen, that I always correct and tell them why. So I think we have to be okay with uncomfortability or being uncomfortable, right? I think so many times there's like this quietness around HIV, and when it's in a setting that is not necessarily quote a safe space, we don't want to speak up about it. So I think speaking up and not being afraid to say, like, this is misinformation, watching our language. So many people still say things like full-blown AIDS, saying things like people are sick. So just really being able to really just, so not being afraid to speak up about it.
What role do you believe individuals can play in supporting those living with HIV/AIDS beyond just awareness?
I am a firm believer in like putting your prayers to feet, putting anything into action.
Yeah.
So on one hand, it's to have frank conversations and open conversations. So whether you're living with HIV or you're an ally or you're talk to everybody about it. Just keep it into the forefront of everyone's mind.
Okay.
And I say that will help to break down some of the stigma.
Yes.
That's not all of the stigma. I mean, there's a lot to do.
Yeah.
But the more that we keep on talking about HIV and AIDS, the more if people become comfortable in knowing where we are today, and that living with HIV, you can still live and thrive and survive and be a wonderful, wonderful person and move forward.
I like that. Again, it goes to educating and breaking that stigma. If we continue to educate, that stigma will continue to be cut down.
Right.
All right. I told John it was a good one. Thank you so much, John.
You are so welcome.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, what's up? Listen, so we are here to celebrate World AIDS.
Yes.
And I feel like today is a day that needs to be recognized.
Right.
It being recognized, it being the artist of itself. I have a question for you. How can art and culture be utilized to raise awareness about HIV/AIDS effectively?
When I think about music and I think about how does that connect to HIV/AIDS, I always think about what Apple does with products Red. Like, that's something that like always resonates with me, that I remember Apple was like, okay, we're gonna make these Red products and they're gonna be for World AIDS Day and AIDS environment. And I feel like that's gonna be always my connection to how music helps, because Apple's funded by music, creative, but also people just expressing stuff. Sometimes you have to talk about stuff. Sometimes you have to. art gets the people moving. It makes them listen.
Art and culture is universal. So no matter what language and no matter where you're from, if you use art and culture, it will, resonate with everybody. And we should do that with all the impact we have made, but we still have a lot of work to do. You're seeing the rates going up of people being diagnosed and people who are dying of HIV, AIDS diagnosis. So using that to mobilize the communities and just bring awareness would be a good thing.
I've been doing HIV work for the past 15 years, and I'm truly about community, and making sure that everybody's aware, right, about the treatment and prevention options.
Yeah, speaking about community, I have a question. In your opinion, what is the most effective way to combat the stigma surrounding HIV/AIDS in our communities?
But I think it's different for different communities. So if you want to think about Black and Brown communities, I think it's normalizing HIV as it is around sexual health, right? So sexual health, and then identifying those things as it relates to HIV around HIV, so that we can reduce that stigma.
All right, so what advice would you give to other HIV addicts or individuals living with HIV that want to become accountable?
I think it's internalizing yourself and saying, do I identify and do I feel comfortable with myself to bring that out into a public space, right? So are you in the correct headspace, right? Because people look at you, people judge you, people have comments, and you have to be ready, you have to be strong and confident, right? So definitely bringing a sense of confidence into that space.
You guys are speaking with Adrian Gates, Executive Director and Founder of Power Atlanta, Inc. We are located in the West End area of Atlanta. For those of you who are not familiar, we are located in the AUC area.
Yeah, so you are always in the community advocating for those living with HIV and also those that's not living with HIV. And I have a question. How can we encourage open conversations about HIV/AIDS in settings where stigma is prevalent?
What I want to say is what I found that works with us in Power Atlanta is open lines of communication and judge-free zones. I want us, when we leave here today, to always use this hashtag, Eradicate Stigma Atlanta. What I found in communities that are very, very underserved is lack of knowledge and education. So what I found in spaces that we use at Power Atlanta is basically what we do is educate, educate, educate.
One thing we could change is if we could remove the stigma around it. I think that'll be just an incredible thing, because then people wouldn't be afraid or ashamed to seek treatment, and then we could probably finally get rid of this disease.
I don't know if I could change how society views it, but I definitely feel like I could put out some positive messaging around or put people in the mindset of changing it or looking at it a different way. HIV doesn't have a race, a color, or a gender, or a sexual preference. Condoms do work. I know it's not traditional, but condoms do work, PrEP work, getting tested work. I think that's one of the biggest things that can be done is making sure that you are getting tested as much as you having sex. If you're having 5 different sex parties a month, you probably should get tested 5 times a month, within that window period. But I always tell people you should get tested as much as you have sex or as you change your sex partner.
Yeah, I like that. It's one of the most important messages you think should be communicated on the World AIDS Day.
Oh, know your status, number one. I think it's just know your status, because I think the previous question I said something that I would answer the second question with. So I'm just like knowing your status and getting tested regularly, making it normal, normalizing it throughout your family, your friends, and your social circle.
Since I moved to Atlanta, I have had quite a few friends who actually got diagnosed and were positive. I've even lost a few, not a lot, but some people that I knew, they did pass away, unfortunately. And that was such an eye-opener that in this day and age, people are still losing their battle with HIV/AIDS. So I think it's just seeing that aspect and that side of things that you didn't think we would experience anymore. It really got me thinking, how can I help? And so that's, luckily Front Runners Atlanta was my chosen family since I've moved here, and they put on the Pride Run every year. So I knew that it could be bigger, and I just knew like there's a problem. I think we can help raise a ton of money through the Pride Run for these great organizations.
Well, our foundation is the Reginald Dion Smith Foundation, and we advocate for families that are impacted with and living with HIV and AIDS.
What are the most important messages you think should be communicated on World AIDS Day?
That we are all connected. And in order to eradicate this virus, we all need to be at the table. That we need to stop separating ourselves and do something about the stigma within the community. We need to come together as one because we're in this fight together.
Yeah, so my name is Travi. I am the prevention coordinator at NASM Incorporated. I'm a dancer, a choreographer, a house mother. The list goes on.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
As someone who's in the creative space, how can art and culture be utilized to raise awareness about HIV/AIDS effectively?
That is a really good question. I'm a firm believer in storytelling. I think that sometimes we can talk about HIV until we're blue in the face to someone. But if I don't see somebody like me, if I don't see their story, if I don't connect with that person, then it's just conversation to me. So as a visualizer, for me, I have to see things. And I think that that's probably one of the greatest, the most beautiful thing is that we can see things. Like we watch Ratchet TV all day long. We be watching P-Valley. We be watching all these shows because we can connect to these shows. But if we can just incorporate the conversation around HIV in these stories, and we can see ourselves in these stories, that's how we can eliminate not only the stigma, but we can start having people just have a conversation.
I am R. Wayne Woodson. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of NASM, which is turning 35 next year.
What are the most important messages you think should be communicated on World AIDS Day?
I think the biggest issue is that you can live with the virus. I think so many people get stuck on what was the case in the 80s, where if you were diagnosed with HIV, it was like, let's just prepare for you to be gone. I think people need to realize there are meds and treatments and facilities that will help you live a long, prosperous and successful life.
So I think the biggest barrier to access HIV testing and treatment in our community, I think stigma has a lot to do with it. People feel a certain way when they're coming in. It's always destigmatized that you got to come into a place to get something done like that. And I think that, frontline staff is the most important part of that to break the stigma. So I think that, education around our frontline staff to make sure that we are meeting the people where they at and not necessarily judging people, just make it an open, welcoming environment. I think that's how we combat that. In order to kill stigma, we got to be the forefront of it. You know what I'm saying? We have to be the people that's out there. We have to be people like you that's doing your show, talk about HIV and AIDS, stigma, stuff like that all the time. So I think we need more people in their platforms to utilize the platforms they have to talk about it, to break the stigma. So if I say, hey, I don't know where to go get treated at, if you're a person that do know where to get treated at, you should be the person that's putting it out there. Say, hey, I know where you can go. Hey, these places we can do this at. So I think there's something for everybody. I think there's something with people like you and I and other people to break that.
Hi everyone, I am Princess Shawan Durbin. I am a community health worker, global health scholar at Meharry Medical College. So excited to be here in community on World AIDS Day. So what I would change about how society views HIV and AIDS is the understanding of you equals you. Undetectable equals untransmittable, right? So when you are undetectable, that means that you are not at all able to transmit HIV and AIDS. So to have folks in community and also outside of community to understand that, I think would definitely be able to help erase a lot of stigma surrounding HIV and AIDS.
Okay, one more question.
Yes, sir.
What does World AIDS Day mean to you personally? And how has it influenced your understanding of HIV?
Definitely, World AIDS Day means so much to me. 4 years ago, I actually came public with my HIV possible status, right? And I say HIV possible because although I'm not living with HIV, HIV is in community with me. And so I wanted to make sure that other young people understood, one, that PrEP is a tool that we have that is so accessible to ensure that we remain non-reactive. And so I think that it's really important to make sure, for me, that World AIDS Day is a day where we're able to come together to celebrate community, how far we've come in the progression of this epidemic, where in the beginning, there were folks that HIV was a death sentence. Folks didn't know who their next loved ones were going to be able to survive and get through the epidemic. And now folks are thriving. Now folks are living positively. And I think that the event that we're here right now is just such a surreal moment, right? Because I think every year we get to be able to look at each other and say, hey, this is where we currently are and we still have ways to go.
I'm the Reverend Elder Johneri'O.
Yes. And today we're here commemorating World AIDS Day. And first of all, who is in the streets, in the trenches, changing the stigma regarding HIV/AIDS. If you could change one thing about how society views HIV/AIDS, what would it be and why?
The first thing would be to remove the stigma.
Yes.
And to remove the stigma, because there are a lot of people that are positive and still hiding.
Yes.
And they're hiding from their family, their churches, and society because they don't believe that they belong, and they believe that this is a death sentence. It's not. I've been living with the virus for 34 years, and I refuse to give up because HIV doesn't define all of who I am. Being gay doesn't define all of who I am. I'm human first.
Okay. Yeah.
Then I'm black that happens to have a preference for being with men. I love women, but
your preference?
My preference is male, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Well,
but for a long time, I dealt with the fact of the stigma attached to being gay. Then that other stigma, HIV meant I was poisoned. People shouldn't be around me. They were gonna be infected if I breathed on them, if they used the same utensils. And that's what I grew up with. I didn't have a World AIDS Day. I didn't even have an agency that embraced us. So to have a place where we can come and be who we are, celebrate who we are, honor those that went before us, that suffered in silence, is wonderful. So the thing to remove is the stigma.
And
because stigma stings. Stigma kills. And stigma will keep you in a place where suffering and silence is okay. It's not. Suffering is not okay. In silence is not okay. And society needs to wake up and embrace their loved ones and let them be people. Because part of the healing is not feeling that you are poison.
Yes, good.
That you are different to the point that it's offensive. Being different is okay. Being different is okay. We can be different and still love each other. And we can love each other, not like each other. Because loving you means I could be across the street and wish you no ill will. That's possible. And that's who I am, but I had to grow into that. Because I have been knocked down, sat on, stepped on, and a few other things. But I came up on that because somewhere inside, my creator told me, you were created to live.
That was, you know what? That's the icing on the cake right there, you guys. Listen, we are celebrating World AIDS Day 2024, and we have individuals like this who are in our community, in the trenches, sharing, empowering, and motivating us every day to continue going. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yay.
Thank you for doing this.
Yes.
Thank you for all that you do in the community. I love my young warriors, and I'm behind you. I'm gonna be the wind beneath your wings.
I know that's right.
Thank you.
Y'all on that, we're out. Peace. All right, family, as you can see, today, World AIDS Day 2024 is definitely an impactful day around all communities. We are here and we have sat with individuals from the past, the present, in hopes to change and destigmatize the future of HIV in our communities. I've been your host, Johneri'O Scott. Stay tuned and remember to always know your status and get tested. Peace.